Hey, folks, welcome to another episode of Cutter One. I am your host, Jay, just Jay, your resident troublemaker and your resident culture warrior. I hope you are all doing well. I hope as we close in on the holidays here that you are all having a glorious and blessed time, surrounded by family and friends and loved ones. All right. Anyway, I just figured I'd share that. So as we're closing out here, I wanted to sort of end on a upbeat note this week, I should say, because going into the holiday, I wanted to sort of end on an upbeat note. So we're not talking about Rings of Power this time, right? Thank God. We're actually going to be singing the praises of Mr. Peter Jackson and his seminal adaptations of Mr. Tolkien's work. So let's get right into it. This is coming to us from the good folks over at inverse.com and says how Peter Jackson made the greatest fantasy movie of all time. In 2002, Jackson delivered an epic unlike any other. Following the massive success of Game of Thrones, there has been a renewed interest among Hollywood producers in creating expensive adaptations of beloved fantasy properties. These pursuits have not only resulted in HBO producing its own Game of Thrones follow-up, House of the Dragon, but in Netflix investing heavily in shows like The Witcher, while Amazon spared no expense on The Wheel of Time and The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power. However, while all of these TV shows have created more than their fair share of memorable moments and awe-inspiring visuals, none of them have ever quite matched the sheer scope or technical craftsmanship of 2002's The Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers, the second installment in director Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings trilogy. It is not only just as good as 2001's The Fellowship of the Ring and 2003's The Return of the King, but its climactic battle has also cast a shadow that not even Game of Thrones or the Harry Potter movies have ever truly been able to escape. Unlike The Fellowship of the Ring and The Return of the King, which are defined by their statuses as the opening and closing chapters of their trilogy, The Two Towers doesn't have to worry about setting up or resolving any of its multiple stories. The film gets to exit solely on its own terms, and the result is a fantasy blockbuster that provides all the escapist fun that a fan of the genre could want, as well as some of the most viscerally effective action storytelling that's ever been captured on screen. The Two Towers has the most straightforward plotting of any of Jackson's three Lord of the Rings films, whereas both Fellowship of the Ring and The Return of the King are comprised largely of detours and twists that constantly send their heroes careening in different directions. The characters in The Two Towers all move along a fairly straight path across the entirety of the film. From the moment it begins, the film is slowly marching towards its climactic battles at Helm's Deep, Osgiliath, and Isengard, and so are the characters who inevitably end up at the center of those conflicts. The structure gives The Two Towers the kind of constant, straightforward momentum that has similarly elevated action films like Mad Max Fury Road. The script, which was penned by Fran Walsh, Philippa Boyens, Stephen Sinclair, and Peter Jackson, also fills it with minor conflicts and action sequences that never bring The Two Towers to a halt as much as they continually propel it forward. As a result, The Two Towers is not only one of the most constantly entertaining blockbusters you'll ever see, but also one of the most exhausting. That's not a slight against the film. The Two Towers uses its countless action sequences to wear down viewers until they're just as tired as the film's heroes. The fact that The Two Towers is able to do that without having to hit its viewers with endless instances of brutality is impressive in its own right. It's even more impressive, however, given how the exhausting toll of the film ultimately elevates its climax, which revolve around last-minute rescues that are satisfying solely because of how well Jackson is able to place viewers in the same emotional space as the Two Towers protagonists. Beyond its numerous structural achievements, though, The Two Towers also boasts some of the most impressive battles and set pieces in blockbuster history. Not only are many of the film's minor action sequences, including the orc ambush that nearly does in Aragorn, Viggo Mortensen, thrilling and visually effective, but the film's climactic conflict at Helm's Deep remains, to this day, the most astonishing battle in fantasy movie history. The sequence is paced perfectly. Jackson wisely punctuates the battle with small vignettes centered around Aragorn, Gimli, John Rhys-Davies, and Legolas, Orlando Bloom. Unlike some of the battle sequences featured in Game of Thrones, Helm's Deep also avoids making the mistake of sacrificing its visual legibility for the sake of broody realism. The entire battle sequence is unrealistically well lit, which allows the viewer to keep track of every beat of it. That approach also prevents some of the sequence's more theatrical elements, like its never ending rain, from getting in the way of the battle's visual effectiveness. Jackson's emphasis on minimal CGI effects and practical stunt choreography further imbues the climactic set pieces of the Two Towers with a level of tangible realism that isn't present in even the best action sequences of The Witcher or any of the Harry Potter movies. The same can be said for all of the Two Towers, which is the rare fantasy production that makes every one of its locations and action sequences feel as real as possible. Nowhere else in his Lord of the Rings trilogy is Peter Jackson's ambition as a filmmaker more clear. Helm's Deep remains one of the most endlessly thrilling action sequences that has ever been staged for the big screen, and that's due in large part to Jackson's clear, practical vision for the Two Towers. 20 years after the film was released, Jackson's ambition can still be felt in every frame of The Two Towers, a film that not only attempts to do more than almost any other blockbuster ever has, but also succeeds in doing so. I gotta say, yeah, that they are 100% dead on. I think that article, yeah, The Two Towers. I remember when I saw it in the theaters. Obviously I had already seen the Fellowship of the Ring, so I knew the scope and the scale, and I was familiar with the books. But there was that one scene as the Uruk-hai are marching on Helm's Deep as they're approaching, and it's a series of cuts, and you guys will know what I'm talking about. It's a series of cuts where you see different angles of the orcs and the Uruk-hai, and they're marching and holding the banners of the White Hand, or I should say the banners of Isengard, right? And they cut to this one part where you see just this sea of orcs and Uruk-hai moving sort of past the camera, but there's this one Uruk-hai standing on this like outcropping of rocks. It's like rocks amongst all of it, and he does the thing with the sword, and you hear him be like, "Rawr," and you hear like the horns go. And I just remember sitting in the theater, and that sent a chill down my spine. Like I knew that what's about to happen is going to be epic. Just based on that one scene, it was just like I had a physical reaction of just like gripping my seat in the theater. Like we better buckle up. We are definitely in for it now. Like shit just got real up in here, right? And it's moments like that Rings of Power or even House of the Dragon, which I'm a fan of the House of the Dragon, or even early original Game of Thrones stuff. And when I say early, I mean like the first 4 seasons, right? Even then, in their best moments, and they had their share of great moments, couldn't compare. There was just something about and Fellowship had similar moments where it just hit you. Like there was that like moment where you had a physical as well as a psychological reaction to the film, right? And in Return of the King, which we'll be celebrating its 20-year anniversary next year, even more so. And that was just like an emotional roller coaster. And you guys know, I'm sure I'll be talking about it here on the channel, but you guys know what's coming. But the Two Towers, it was just like I remember, like I said, as a young man sitting in that theater watching it, knowing full well what to expect. It wasn't like I was surprised or shocked, but just how well Peter Jackson had done it. That one scene, just with the orcs marching towards Helm's Deep, and that one like issuing the command, like go forward, with the sword, and just the way it was framed, and the lighting, and the music, and the sound effects, and the horns, and it was just like that, like gut punch of oh shit, you know. And for me, like, I will always remember that moment. That's like right up there with like my top three like cinematic moments. That I will always carry with me. Like, you know, that sort of like fuck, you know. Anyway, so yeah, I wanted to end on a high note where we're singing the praises of Peter Jackson and the Two Towers on this its 20th anniversary. The actual date was the 18th, was the actual 20th anniversary to the day. But you know, I figured that this whole season, you know, it at this point 20 years ago, it had been out about a week. And I think I had already seen it. Yeah, I had already seen it. So I just wanted to end on a positive note with you guys. I didn't want to talk about the other show, the Amazon show. I felt like, you know, as we head into the holiday weekend, let's go out on a good vibe, right? Let's go out on a positive note. So let me know what you think. What's your best memory? If you saw the Two Towers in the theater when it first was released 20 years ago, what was your best memory of that? You know, did you have that sort of visceral gut punch moment where it all just sort of clicked immediately and you were just like, oh, this is freaking awesome? Or, you know, maybe if you're a little bit younger and you saw it for the first time either on DVD or on a VHS and stuff like that, did you have that similar, you know, gut punch moment the first time you saw it? And has that stuck with you, or was it just, you know, another film in the trilogy? You know, let me know what you think. Let me know your comments. Let me know your experience with the Two Towers. All right, guys, I will see you in the next video. If you like the video, remember to like the video. If you feel like sharing the video, that would be great because it gets seen by more people and it helps YouTube sort of promote it and get it out there for everybody. If you have not subscribed, I would hope you would consider subscribing. We are going to be it's a long journey we're going on. We're going there and back again with the whole Tolkien, Lord of the Rings, and the whole universe and Middle Earth that he created. So I hope you will decide to join our little fellowship here. We're small, but we're, you know, from little things, even the smallest among us can change the fate of the world. I think that's what Galadriel said. So we're gonna try. Anyway, I will talk to you guys later. If you have subscribed and you're coming back, thank you. You are a beautiful badass, and I will see you on the next one. Be good, be safe, be awesome. Peace.